About where our gift shop is now and when it was removed. These are some of the artifacts that were found. So right here, you have a kettle that would have been used for heating food and water. Back here, you have a spinning wheel, so what they would have used to make fabric and then sewn that into their clothes. You have an oil can here. You have a lantern. This had been some of the first lights to come into the cave for tours. And then back here, you have a coil from the moonshiners. And this coil was actually found over here in this back corner of the cave, which we'll get to here in just a few. So I'm going to flip some lights on so we can see our next formations. All right, this formation right here, its actual name is called flowstone. It's told that, as you can see, the water flows down. As it flows down, it leaves a mineral called calcite. Calcite is typically kind of a milky white color, but you'll notice ours is an orange-brown color. And the reason behind that is it has iron mixed in. So, of course, when iron is exposed to water and oxygen, it begins to rust and gives us this gorgeous orange-brown color. It does take approximately about 100 years for this calcite to grow 1 centimeter. So you can imagine how many millions of years it has taken for this formation to form. Not to mention it goes up there a ways, so we can't see back there. And also, too, we do know at one point that it had broken off, and we're not sure how long it was when it broke off, or why it broke off, if it just broke off from sheer weight of it hanging there. Or before there were laws and regulations, people would come into caves and remove things like souvenirs. So we're not sure how that one broke off. All right, if you follow me, I'll show you our next point of interest. Is the highest point in our cave. And right there, it's about 70 feet above the cave entrance. So it's up there a ways. So I told you at the beginning of the cave, I had a little bit of a story to tell you about how caves are formed. So if you follow me back millions of years ago, where we're standing is a stream that runs underneath the ocean. Up above us, completely flat like a pancake, and then we have the ocean. So this is a little stream underneath the ocean. So how a cave like this forms is this water's moving through here. The ground becomes too saturated, can't hold any more water, but it starts to build up pressure. Over time, this pressure actually pushes the rocks upward in what's called a geological uplift. This geological uplift is what has created most of our Ozark Mountains, but also to explain why Missouri has so many caves. At current count, we're at about 6,700 caves, and that number increases every day. So what happened here in this section is this water's running here underneath the ocean, building up pressure, looking for a way to relieve that pressure. Eventually, it finds a way out right there, which is called a spring outlet. So I always think Beverly Hillbillies, but instead of oil bubbling up to the surface, you have water bubbling up underneath the ocean. Then somehow this gets clogged, and then it creates a whirlpool. So the water begins spinning and twisting and turning in this area, carving out the rock. And then if you look up here, you'll see all of these marks here. That is actually where the water and the waves hit the side of the cave, leaving their mark behind. The reason we're able to see this in our cave is made of a rock called dolomite. Most caves in Missouri are made of limestone. Dolomite is much harder than limestone and holds those formations much better. So after a period of time of the water spinning and twisting and turning in here and carving out the rock, it eventually finds another way out right here, another spring outlet, and stops that whirlpool from spinning. So pretty cool. All right, if you guys want to follow me, the young kids earlier, so sometimes our animals like to hide for a period of time after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, there's one right there. In the middle of my beam right there is actually, you see it? It's a crawfish.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like the light on. So we do have the occasional crawfish. Well, look at him go. He's fast going. He's like, can you stop? We have two types of cave salamanders that call the cave home. Frogs, toads, and occasional bats. So we're definitely always looking out for our types of animals in here. And he's like, woman, I swear, get that light off with me. This right here is actually the first man-made dam built inside our cave, and it was built by the moonshiners. So the moonshiners built this dam to be able to have a constant supply of water that they needed there for their distilling process. Our cave worked great for the moonshiners for a couple of reasons. First, the entrance we came in is the only known entrance and exit outside of the cave. So if somebody's trying to catch them making their illegal moonshine, lots of places to go run and hide, wait for them to go past, run back out, and don't get caught. Also, too, our water has been tested. It's about 99% pure. So it also works great for the distilling process as well. And then right up here is actually a natural occurring waterfall. So the water does come through here naturally. The Native Americans believed that a natural occurring waterfall was a fountain of youth. So this would have been a very sacred area for them as well, too. Alright, as we're moving, watch this guy right here. We call him the Rock of Many Names. I'm just short enough, I clear him. But if you're taller than I am and you don't watch it, you'll say a couple of those names. They're not real nice. This formation up through here is called sponge work. Called that because it kind of looks like the holes of a kitchen sponge. So how this formation occurs is this light colored rock that you see is dolomite. In where these holes were a much harder rock called chert. So when the water moves through here, it erodes the softer rock, then the chunks of chert fall out, leaving the holes behind, making it look like a sponge. And the Native Americans used the chert for many of their tools because it was such a hard rock. And I want to see, yesterday we had a pretty good sized salamander hiding over here, but like I said, oh, he's still here.
Wow.
So he is a spotted cave salamander. It's pretty cool. We don't get to see the large ones very often, so when we find them, we love them when we get to see them. He's pretty cool. Surprisingly, like I said, after 90 kids coming through, he decided he's still going to hang out there. Alright, this is our next passageway inside our cave. This passageway here goes about 3/4 of a mile back there, believed to go up underneath the highway. We do wild caving and spelunking, so people go back there and check it out. Now, like I said, this goes 3/4 of a mile, but we've only had people go about 300 yards. After that, it narrows up to about 14 inches. Haven't had anybody small enough or brave enough to slide past there to see what there is. Can't blame them. Even if you're not claustrophobic, at 14 inches, when it's all rock around you, it does set in. And then right here, this is another passageway. These two actually meet up just about 100 yards back. This is just the rugged way to take. It is a belly crawl across the rocks. It's also wet because all the water from those bottom pools do flow through here. So everybody just takes the mud crawl. And then this right here is a natural occurring wishing well. So what happens in this section is the groundwater finds a way through the cracks or what's called joints and rocks. So it goes through here, makes a maze, eventually finds a spot to come out right here. And then all that pretty red that you're seeing is the iron that is mixed in with the rock. The water does naturally pool here in this section. We, of course, do dam it up for flood control. The Native Americans believed that a natural occurring wishing well was luck. So they would have thought that this cave was very lucky to them. So we always like to think and hope maybe that luck extends to nowadays. So I still have to make a wish in our wishing well, and it doesn't come true. Come see me in a year, and then you have to dig your money out, and we'll let you get a full refund. So feel free if you would like to make a wish. Just remember, the trick is to a wish. You can't tell anybody what it is, or it doesn't come true. So, all right. You follow me, just watch your step. Watch this rock. Watch your head right here. But if you stand right here at this pool, you look down and out, and you see a white tunnel back there. That is the entrance to the cave. This is the last point in our cave that receives natural light. And this would be the last point that the Native Americans would have came. They did not come past the point of natural light because they believed that opened you up to the spirits. They believed that their spirits and gods lived in the back end of the cave, so they wouldn't want to disturb them either. We do know that, however, they were in this area because this is a fire pit. So what they did here is they dug a hole, took some of that nice red clay from over there, lined that hole, then over time of lighting the fire and putting it out, did turn that clay into a solid rock. All right, then if you look down here, you kind of see all these hills and bumps. These are ancient bear beds, so where bears used to sleep. In this section, there are 35 of these bear beds alone. When they opened the cave up for tours, they had to remove 15 bears from this section before they could even do tours. So Native Americans, moonshiners, and bears all like their cave. Out of all of them, I'd rather run into a moonshiner as long as he's willing to share. Right here is one of the larger bear beds, but you can see how a bear clears out their bed. You can still see the claw marks where they dig the hole. Then they take debris from outside, leaves, branches, things like that, line it, and gives them a nice place to sleep for the winter. This guy right here in blue is our next formation. We've referred to him as the dragon's nest. Kind of looks like dragon eggs. But his actual name is called the stalagmite. Then if you look up to the ceiling through the crack, you'll see his friend also lit in blue is a stalactite. So kind of the way to remember the difference, a stalagmite might reach a ceiling. A stalactite holds tight to the ceiling. If the two of them ever connect, it's called a column. If you see a stalagmite on the ground, you do know that there has to be a stalactite above it, because a stalagmite is actually formed from the drippings that come down from the stalactite. A couple of other unusual things about our cave before we go on. First, most caves work their way downhill. In our cave, we actually are going to work our way uphill. Also, too, our cave has 4 very distinct levels. We're getting ready to leave the first level of our cave and go into the second level of our cave. The second level of our cave is the quietest and the driest of all of the levels. And once we get around this corner is the point in the cave that stays a constant 58 degrees. So today, you may not feel too much of a difference, but if you really pay attention, you might find a slight coolness. I'll kind of point it out where the point it starts to kind of cool down. Right here you can kind of feel a colder, do you feel a little bit of that change? It's a little harder today when it's really hot outside. It's like an air conditioner. At that point as tour guides, we're like, yes, that's a good spot. So like I said, this section of our cave does stay a constant 58 degrees. So it can be 102 degrees outside. It's still 58 degrees. It could be -2. It's still 58 degrees. This section of our cave would have been used by the Stark family as cold storage. So they would have brought meat, cheese, potatoes, things like that. So it's kind of like a refrigerator before they were even invented.
Oh, that's cool.
So lots of uses for them as well. Not to mention bringing livestock in here in the hot summer months or the cold winter months, just to keep them safe. Also, too, as well, in the hot summer months, they would come in here and play as well and stay cooled off, too. And then our next formation is just right here above our heads. This formation is called stromatolite. And then what stromatolite is the remains of sea coral. So when that sea receded, it left behind the coral. Then over time, it petrified, turning into this formation. And we really see it getting going here in the second level. So it starts here, and then it goes down and around the corner quite a ways. This section of our cave was actually featured in National Geographic in 1980s as the longest and best representation of stromatolite anywhere in the world. So this is our famous section of the cave. This is one of those things that I can guarantee you're not going to see much in any other cave around. So kind of a special area. I think it kind of looks like a little wasp nest or something up there. But like I said, that's actually just the sea coral. All right, and then over here on the walls, you kind of see these dark streaks coming down. That's actually where seaweed was hanging and dried up on the walls, leaving their mark behind. And then over here is a natural hole in that stromatolite. And this stuff, like I said, can get several feet thick. And this is why it stays so quiet and so dry in here. This kind of helps keep the water out and the sound in. All right, this is my pool. I always like to play a little game with everybody. How deep do you think my pool is at its deepest point?
Looks like it goes under the rock somewhere. That's probably much deeper on the other side.
I think it's deceptive.
Yeah.
I think it's only a couple feet deep.
Yeah, you're right. It's deceptive. It's only about 2 inches deep.
Oh.
To the very back, it's about 2 feet deep. What you're seeing is the light reflecting on the back of the cave, making it much deeper. This water actually feeds into Moonshiner's Dam, so it isn't real deep. I always say this area right here just looks like an amazing spot to relax.
It does.
Looks like a good book, glass of wine, and kind of chill out there. But you're going to end up with wet, soggy shoes, so not quite as relaxing as what it looks. Kind of disappointing, though. Not to mention the water is 52 degrees. Yeah, exactly. Hot summer months, you're like, oh, that sounds good, until you're in it for a few seconds. You're like, oh, I'm good. All right, this area of the cave is called the Mushroom Gardens. Caves are great at growing mushrooms. And we got quite successful at it. We got very close to the state record. But caves are great because they are damp and dark, so mushrooms like that kind of conditions. Our previous owner actually planted the mushrooms in hopes to bring in insects, which they hope would have brought in some additional bats. Didn't quite work that way. We didn't get any additional insects, no additional bats, but what it brought in was a funk. It smelled like mold and mildew throughout the entire cave.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad. So when the new owners took it over, they did remove the mushrooms so that they would not replant them because of the fact the smell was so bad. Thank goodness. Not a fan of that. And then as we're moving, you'll also to notice that the stromatolite is working its way into the ground, which tells us that we are leaving the second level of our cave and going into the third level of our cave. The third level of our cave is the wettest of all the levels. I guarantee you're going to get dripped on. They're called cave kisses. Just be careful looking up. They can get to be about a $50 size. Not so much today because it's not so wet, but those drips do not feel good when they hit you square in the middle of the eyeball. I found that out this summer, so just be careful. But this is the one section of the cave I said wasn't completely natural. You can actually still see the drill marks where they went in here and drilled it out. The natural opening was from about here to here, so it was a belly crawl into the next section. So they just removed this chunk so we didn't have to crawl through it. I'm all right with that. So.
Ooh, I feel that cool breeze.
Yes. And then in here we have a lot of great formations as well. Here is some more of the flowstone. I love it. You can see all the marbling. We call him Skeletor. Kind of looks like the 80s cartoon. Then if you look up, if you get a group of stalactites that grow together like this, it's called draperies. This guy's pretty special. He has his own special name, and we call him Jack the Dripper. He drips like this non-stop, except for about 2 weeks out of the year. So he's a good place to get wet. And then this one here, I call him Squidward. Kind of looks like Squidward from SpongeBob. Then a couple years ago, they actually found the very first fossil inside our cave. And he's right here on the wall. And what he is called a crinoid. And a crinoid, how I describe them, is they kind of look like a hermit crab, but they have jellyfish-like tentacles. He's pretty special because the normal crinoid is only about the size of a pencil eraser. He's much larger. And he's also been here so long that he's no longer a fossil, but it's made out of solid quartz. So he's been here for a long, long time. And then if you notice, there is a green band that runs underneath of him. That's actually a band of copper that runs through it. So different colors in our wall mean different things. Green is copper, black is manganese, yellow is sulfur, and your red is your iron. So all of those different colors tell you what kind of things make up our cave. And then up here, one I'm going to have you go up ahead of me. So if you go up those stairs, and then you can just stop right at that platform for me. We used to have this area of our cave open up for tours, but it was a wooden boardwalk that rotted away. Eventually, we're going to get back up there so we can see all of those great formations that are back there.
Let's sit over, kiddo.
But while you're at the top, if you turn around and look above my head, this is what we call our aha moment. What this formation's name is actually is called a stalactiflat. We call it our hanging gardens. So how a stalactiflat forms, I say think of a reverse sandwich. You get mud at the top, the rock in the middle, and mud at the bottom. So how it forms is the water drips through the mud and actually builds the formations upward from the rock. Then the mud gets washed away and then reveals the stalactiflat. So he's pretty cool. And then this guy right here, that you cannot avoid his drips, is another spring outlet. And he's so tall that they actually call him a chimney. And like I said, this is where the water pushes its way out to the surface, trying to find a way to relieve pressure. This one's got to be pretty close to the surface, because this is, believe it or not, a mild drip. If we get a big downpour, it's like Niagara Falls. We grab umbrellas to go through this area.
Oh, wow.
But we don't flood, thank goodness. So, all right, again, follow me this way. But this actually is called the chapel because of how it comes out to the point. And if you go inside the chapel and you go straight in and you look up toward the ceiling, you see a black thing up there. Kind of looks like a heart. So we also refer to this as the bleeding heart room.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a passageway over here. This passageway, they actually will not open up for tours. There's just not any great formations back there to see. But if you look at the ground, you can see what we would be walking through if there wasn't this nice pathway. You would be fighting water, but also to this red, thick clay. This clay is so thick that it pulls your shoes right off the bottom of your feet.
Oh.
So yeah, they actually classify us as a moderate to expert for spelunkers because of this wet, thick clay. Then in here I also have a couple more great formations, and you guys can come on down. Right here, this is some more of the calcite and milky white color. And then we call him the twin elephants because he kind of looks like two elephant trunks. All right, how about you? Do you guys like bacon?
Melody does.
I love bacon. We have the world's tastiest cave formation ready. Cave bacon. Not quite as tasty as it sounds, but it's where it makes nice flat strips like that. So it looks like a slab of bacon. This piece right here is actually a stalactite that has broke off, but I think it looks more like a piece of bacon. But you can also see all of the layers that it takes to make up a cave wall. There's a lot going on there. And we're not sure if the stalactite broke off naturally. We do know, however, that did not. Prior to 1970, there were no laws or regulations mandating caves. People would come into caves, take something like that as a souvenir. Luckily, in 1970, they made the first federal law protecting caves and made it a federal offense to remove anything from a cave. So, fortunately, that saves us from any other kind of damage happening. So, again, as we're moving through, watch your step, watch your right-hand side, because that's where Jack is, and he will definitely get you. And then as we're going down the stairs, I haven't figured out if it's that optical illusion of going downstairs, but it just seems like it's shorter. So just watch your head. And this is the point I always find out if I can count. Because if I flip these lights off and I don't count right, you'll hear somebody scream because it's pitch black back there. So, happened once. I was like, oop, miscounted by twice. They screamed. It's like, oops, sorry.